Okay, here's the gist. I have been procrastinating on this video for a very long time. Legacy Collection dropped almost 3 years ago now, and I have not put this video out. And apparently, the Star Force Legacy Collection is coming out this Friday, so I'm gonna finally do this thing I've wanted to do, which is long form content. But I'm gonna do it live. Probably won't be editing that much. Famous last words. All right, so welcome. If you're anything like me, first of all, my condolences. Second of all, you are a very big Mega Man Battle Network fan. So much so that you have dedicated several years of your life to only playing the Battle Network Legacy Collection as your only single player game. If that doesn't sound like you, then I guess that's just me. I wanted to make this video because it's been a long time coming. I started making Battle Network content a while ago, even though it took me some of the videos took hours upon hours to actually execute. That catharsis I feel is just so nice. So anyways, here is my micro love letter to the Mega Man Battle Network franchise. It's been a long time coming, so rather than procrastinate and wait for the perfect video, I'm just gonna go for it live and see how we go. So we got to start at the beginning. I first played Mega Man Battle Network when I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old. I was in the 4th grade. At the time, I believe I had a Game Boy Advance, and I was playing the Pokemon games, but I'd never heard of Mega Man before, and a friend of mine, he lent me his Game Boy during Centers. I don't know if you guys had that when you were in school as kids. So he played Mega Man, and I was like, don't you have Pokemon? And he's like, no, I have this one. So I tried it, and I remember the game was Battle Network 2. I was in the Natopia area, and I was running around. At the time, the mission was to look for a Zap Ring 2 B code, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was just running around, and I saw the grid system, and I would mash the random buttons. I saw that you can fire a buster, but you only did a little bit of damage. I saw that you could hold a charge shot, you could fire it, but the chips I couldn't really figure out because it doesn't tell you what the descriptions are. So I just ran around like getting stunned, and I think it wasn't until like this moment of me drafting this video that I realized that was very different for me for a Game Boy Advance game to have this real-time aspect to combat, and how I couldn't just sit still and wait for a turn to end. I had to dodge, for example, and if I didn't, then I got stunned, and you see Mega Man's head whip back in his flinch state, and you're kind of like, almost like, there's a sense of urgency to it. So, I played that. I don't remember if I ever got the chip then. I remember talking to the NPC who kept asking for one, because obviously in these days you just go around, you talk to everything. That's how games work when I was a kid anyways. And at some point my friend had let me borrow it for the summer. So I started a new game. Me and my other best friend, we kind of took turns and played it through. And it was a blast. I really, really enjoyed how like... Oh, got pausing. Where was I? Okay. So yeah, we borrowed it over the summer. We had a really fun time. I remember thinking the story was interestingly very dark for a Game Boy Advance game, like for a kid's game. I remember Lan had said damn at some point, and other people were threatening like straight up kill him, which is not what I imagined would happen in a Game Boy Advance game for kids. So yeah, it was a great time playing through Battle Network 2 as like a 10-year-old, and that's how old Lan was at the time. So it works out. Oh, actually, side note, I remember reading a Battle Network 2 post in Reddit about someone not able to S rank, or I think you even need like a 9 or 10, maybe? I could be wrong. To get the Zap Ring 2B chip for the quest, the little side quest thing. And I'm getting really mad that it was too hard. And it was the first time, I think one of the first times I felt like, wow, this really is a skill issue. That people are just not willing to learn how to be good at the game, or like at least proficient enough to not make it through the main story. Anyways, that's privilege talking. So yeah, that was Battle Network 2, physical Game Boy. Lots of fun, lots of strong memories. Afterwards, my cousin, she actually had Battle Network 3 on the Visual Boy emulator. So she showed it to us. So she's like, oh, look at this cool RPG I found. And she was, I don't know, 11 or 12 at the time. And I'm like, oh, actually, this looks just like Battle Network 2. And then I think at the time she was in the Plant Man stage. I remember because the music reminded me of, or rather, the SciShow YouTube channel reminded me of Battle Network 3's Plant Man dungeon music, the background music. So I walked her through how to play that, and she taught me how to get an emulator on my computer. And so for Battle Network 3, I played that through emulator. At some point, I did get the physical copy. I remember I had guidebooks as well. Man, the guidebooks were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed, same for like not just Mega Man but also Pokemon. I might have had someone else's guidebook, but like being able to flip through a physical catalog and seeing like the blown up art in higher resolution and seeing all the charts and the tables and the maps, that is such a cool feeling. And I feel it's a lost art these days, especially now in 2026. But with the Battle Network guidebooks and Pokemon guidebooks, I enjoyed that a lot. So with Battle Network 3, we actually had the guidebook, and it was there I learned about, because I kind of spoiled a lot of stuff for me in that regard. Like I would read ahead because I really wanted to know more about the world and the lore and everything that was awaiting me. So I saw the spoilers for I guess I should mention spoiler warning for Battle Network 3 in case you haven't played it yet. And I know I'm going to get shit for that in the comments, but, you know, maybe someone's playing for the first time. I don't want to ruin what's arguably the best narrative. Whether I can confirm or deny that is another video to be seen. But yeah, with Battle Network 3, I remember seeing the betrayal by one of the characters and how the guidebook itself had a voice in it, like mentioning like its own commentary on the matter and stuff like that. I remember answers that pursued within my memory 20 years later because of me having read the guidebook 8 or 9 years old or whatever the case. So Battle Network 3, yeah. Oh, Secret Area, how could I forget? Yeah, that's the biggest thing, right? Is the post game, what everyone raves about with 3 is that you complete this whole story. It's very full, very fulfilling, and afterwards you have like a whole new 20 to 30 hours available where you have extra boss fights, extra difficult virus fights, extra gauntlets, extra chips that like completely broke past the limit of what was previously established. Shit like that was really cool. I had yet to play another post game that was as involved as the Battle Network 3 one. So Battle Network 3 comes and goes. It's got all this hype that everyone loves it. They played through. They have the post game, all that. And then Battle Network 4 comes around, and at this point, my brother and I are like experienced, quote unquote, as kids to play Battle Network. So we actually bought both copies of Battle Network 4. We each had our own versions, and friends of mine had their own copies now too. So not only were we able to trade chips, like my brother and I, we did. He's my younger brother. He probably doesn't have as strong a memory of this as I do, but like we did the secret tournaments to get all the secret navies. We did net battles. I used to go to school as a 6th grader and battle upperclassmen, but because I was a no good, dirty, dark user cheater, I would wipe the floor with them, and they'd get so mad at me for cheating because I used, Dark Sword and Dark Lance and PvP when they only had like 1,000 HP. The game itself, I had fun-ish, but I remember being a little disappointed, as I'm sure most, is that controversial to say, most Battle Network players had, having to do the same playthrough over and over again versus one long playthrough. I did enjoy trying to get the S ranks on the nabbies. I think that's when they added the records, and as a kid I leaned on air hockey, of course, as everyone does, air grabs and air hockeys, and hoping to get the EV full synchro and all that jazz, and then suffering with duo because that was the skill check when he disables so many of your tools. Afterwards, Battle Network 5, I think we had the guidebooks for up to 4. I can't remember if we had them for 5. 5, we had the liberation missions, and that was interesting. I can't remember how I played the Game Boy Advance version. My memory actually solidifies more in the DS version, and I really like the DS version. I think most of that is because around 4 is when the TV show was coming out, Network, NT Warrior. I was gonna say Network Transmission. And I really liked having the voice lines, like having Mega Man talk to me, like, let's do it, Lan, and all that. So that was a soft spot in my heart, and I enjoy that. I have yet to replay that, actually. I should do that at some point. So Double Team DS, and I remember waiting for Battle Network 6 also to come out. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Battle Network 6, I was so gung-ho about the Battle Network series that I didn't even wait for the English release. I played the Japanese release in Japanese, like through emulator, and I followed some Beautiful Souls walkthrough on GameFAQs, because this is when I started using the internet on top of the guidebooks to look up things. And I remember not understanding at all what was going on with the story, like why there was a change of scenery and all that, and not understanding what the chips did, but still playing through it. I did beat it, and I remembered absolutely nothing from it. Nothing from my Japanese playthrough, which is crazy to me, because like here, Battle Network is such a pivotal game in my childhood, and yet I have zero memories of playing through the Japanese version outside of reading the guide on GameFAQs. When the English version did finally come out, same thing. My brother and I each got a copy, just like we did 4 and 5. We played through it. I barely remember the English playthrough. I guess because I soiled my experience so bad, and this is probably the origin of my spoiler sensitivity, like why I'm very, very anal about not spoiling things for people. Because here I spoiled Battle Network 6 for myself, and I ended up not enjoying the finale to the Battle Network franchise. Battle Network 6 is also when my best friend and I, the one from Battle Network 2, and I finally got to net battle with each other, like more properly, with proper decks and stuff, proper folders. And then I think he showed me a video of people getting S ranks by just going beast out and chip charging, and I realized how utterly inconsequential Battle Network 6 was for PvE. Which is fair. Obviously, now as a 30-plus-year-old, I realize that it's more for PvP, and they did a lot of balancing for PvP, like reducing the broken program advances, the cross system they had. Another note, as a child, all my folders were alphabet soup. I probably just sorted by highest attack, threw it into my folder, and then hoped that I could figure it out. And sometimes I wouldn't. Like chips like Geyser, I definitely didn't really. I might have gotten it off once or twice and then realized it wasn't worth it. I didn't realize you were supposed to combo with like Panel Out or Cannonball prior or anything like that. So that to me speaks a lot to the strength of the game, actually. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But the fact that there's so much variety in how you play, if you just choose to kind of put down the really OP stuff and force yourself to adapt. So that was my childhood. Battle Network 2. Oh, I didn't do Battle Network 1. I did play Battle Network 1 on emulator. I didn't hate it at the time, but I did definitely get stuck with Electman, that stage, and I actually had to rage quit. It wasn't a rage quit, it was more of a resignation quit. I just could not figure out the system with, like, I ran out of battery, I think. I didn't realize that you were able to recharge the battery, so I just didn't bother. I also remember, like, actually playing through Battle Network 1 because I had watched the TV show at this point, how the storylines didn't make sense. As a kid, it didn't make sense, but obviously Battle Network 1 came out first. In any case, that's also a random sharp memory I have of Battle Network 1 is abandoning it because of my PET dying. So yeah, that was Battle Network as a kid, however many years, 2 or 3 years of my life. That was, we'll call that Act 1, the discovery phase of when I was a child and discovering Battle Network for the first time. Okay, so now Act 2. This one I'm going to call the anticipation phase. It's basically the in-between of me as a child having played Battle Network and then waiting for more Battle Network. As a kid, Star Force came out. I was a little disappointed because, you know, obviously I played it. I'm a huge Mega Man fan at the end of the day, so I'm going to play through it. And I had fun with it. I did play online. I played with friends. I spent many hours doing pixel art for my portraits that I have a strong memory of. But it wasn't the Battle Network that I really wanted. So I remember going online and seeing that Battle Network 7 was a fan-made thing, perhaps. And I think now, I could be wrong, I think Battle Network 7 was originally, that's what Chrono X was called. I'm not so sure, but I will, I guess, give a quick shout out to Chrono X. I know someone personally who's working on it, and I guess as part of this theme, you'll find out, I very adamantly do not watch any Chrono X content because I want to go in as blind as possible. Point is, I waited eagerly for a new Battle Network game. It never came out. Star Force came out. I played through it. Waited for more Battle Network. Went through forums. Saw people building their own fan games. Waited for those to come out. At some point, I don't remember what it was, but I do, move on. I find other things for a kid to be interested in. But it's always in the back of my head, such that, like, I'm in high school at this point, and I'm applying to college, and I see a video from, I think his name is Pranab Mistry. I should look it up, but I'm kind of lazy right now and I don't want to re-record the script, so I'm just going to hope and bank that I'm remembering correctly. He was an MIT grad student, I think. His name was Pranab Mistry. He put out this device that he developed as part of his grad program called the Sixth Sense. And it's like this device you wear around your neck, and you do angle your fingers in front of you to make like a frame, and then that triggers the device to take a picture. It projects like a numpad on your hand, so you can tap, and where you've tapped, it recognizes that that's what's been pushed, even though there's no physical connectivity between your hand and the device. That shit was so cool. And this is like 2010, I think. 2010, 2011 is when this was quote-unquote invented. Never went anywhere. Obviously, here we are 15 years later. But that I found really inspiring, and I was like, damn, it'd be really cool if I could make something like that. And so when college came around and I was applying, that was... I wrote a college app essay. For those of you in the US, there's a thing called Common App, which is like a bunch of universities here in the US they all standardize their application process. Rather than choose one of the pre-selected prompts, I actually chose to write my own prompt, and it was something about like the prompt I designated for myself was something like write how something inspires you about the future. I don't know what the exact word was. Maybe I'll cover in a video later. But it was something about electronic devices or invention, something like that. Because here I am trying to be an engineer. So I wrote about this guy, and I wrote about Mega Man Battle Network. I wrote about how it predicts that the future will have these smart devices that you can like connect your fridge to the network and all these really cool things. Ironically, here we are, and it's kind of more dystopian that like now we have to pay a service fee to unlock seat warmers in your car and shit like that. So not exactly the future I had envisioned, but we did get there at some point. Mega Man did correctly predict the Internet of Things in that sense. Spoiler alert, I did not get into any of the colleges I applied to with that essay. I did end up going to a really top engineering school, so thankful and grateful for that. But I don't think that essay did me any favors. But I regret nothing. I like the fact that I can think about it now, 15 years after college, to be able to be like, I jeopardized my chances because I really like Battle Network and I wrote an essay about it. I can take pride in that. So, that was college. After college, I learned in college, I had some friends who also played Battle Network as kids, and they all also wanted the same thing I did. Like, when's the next one coming out? It was a really fun time. It was ahead of its time as far as mechanics went. That's not even getting into things like how great its PvP scene is for 6, like the balance that's naturally in there and things like that. Anyways, my friends at the time with the Wii U releases was they went back and they were able to play the Virtual Console release. To me, that was just a step above emulator, so I chose not to. And I think at this point, we had several Legacy collections drop for Classic and X. I think at least 3 times for Classic. So I was like, all right, well, if they're gonna remake these Legacy collections for X and Classic, I'm sure they at some point have to do Battle Network, right? And I think Zero eventually got one too. So I just held on hope. I was like, no, I want to preserve the amount of time I can not play Battle Network so that when it is officially dropped, I can jump back in with the community and explore it all for the first time again and leave enough of a gap, because evidently my memory is so sharp, leave enough of a gap that I can truly experience it as a kid again for the first time. So I did this with the Battle Network franchise. I'm doing it with the Star Force as well. So when Star Force finally drops in about 3 days, I will be playing that as blind as I can be. So yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to. But in any case, with the Battle Network Legacy Collection, I was just biding my time, holding my breath. I'm like, sure enough, Capcom will release a Legacy Collection for Battle Network at some point. And I would be on Rockman Corner, to shout out to Proto Dude for giving me stuff to like indulge in every couple months whenever I check that site and just go back and see all the Battle Network content I can. I think it was around pandemic maybe, or maybe a little after it, I saw the news about how they had plans for the Battle Network Legacy Collection or something, some Battle Network anniversary celebration, and never came to fruition. And then out of nowhere, the Legacy Collection announcement drops, and I was so ecstatic that I shrieked in my own room, like seeing it, hearing the voices and stuff, seeing Andrew Francis reprise his role as Mega Man EXE. And so I had to wait a year. I'm super happy. I'm very ecstatic. I can't wait to be really like all the things of replaying them for the first time, talking to my friends and going through the story together, but also finding a community again through the Discord space, just like I did with GameFAQs on the Star Force era back in childhood. That was something I really look forward to, and it's part of the reason why, if you ever find me on Discord, my tag is that this is my return to this space, this online space of like-minded individuals all cherishing the same memories and playthroughs that we had back when we were children. That said, now that I had some spending money, I learned how to import Japanese stuff, like PETs and stuff. So I think around 2022, the summer of, I spent about $1,000 on Japanese children's toys. It was a way for me to get that out there. And then actually, that reminds, shoot, I probably don't have time to put in this video, but I did go to Japan later that year and looked for Battle Network merch and had a very tremendously difficult time finding any. I'll save it for later. For now, I want to talk about the Legacy Collection specifically. So basically, this is Act 2. This is the anticipation phase, the in-between from when I waited for the game to come out, the game finally came out, and so now we hit Act 3. So now we're in Act 3, and this is the everything else phase. So now that Legacy Collection's finally been announced, I actually started watching highlight clips again on Reddit. I found my favorite content creators there were IPZ and DZ3. Those guys blew my mind on like the way you can really coordinate whatever you want in a Battle Network game and manipulate and choreograph exactly what it is you're looking for. Amongst my friend circles, I'm known for being very directorial with how I play my games sometimes as an additional challenge. And that can be anywhere from Pokemon to, honestly, Elden Ring. I've done that a lot. So, if at some point I ever finish my Battle Network backlog, I may get to those. It's on my list, but this year has been very busy the last 12 months between getting a new job, getting promoted, finding a girlfriend, getting married, all that jazz. Anyways, humble brag aside, as far as Battle Network is concerned, I anticipated that I would need some time off to really enjoy this. I went in and requested an entire week of PTO off from my remote job just to play Battle Network from scratch. So I take this week off of work, a full week of PTO, 40 hours paid, thinking that, the 40 hours from work plus probably the 40 hours that outside of work plus the hours I usually spend sleeping should be enough time to 100% everything. God, I was so incredibly fucking wrong. That week alone, it took me 100 hours to... I think what I did was I completed Battle Network 1 100%, and I think I completed main story of Battle Network 2. I don't think I even 100% in Battle Network 2. The reason for that is because I tried to commit to staying without guides to see what it would be like if I was a kid trying to solve this. And God, Battle Network... I actually had to draw a map for Battle Network 1 because of how confusing the net was. But in any case, once I beat the main story of Battle Network 1, that's when I started resorting to looking things up online, like drop rates, because I got frustrated with always getting Zennies. Actually, no, that's why I looked up RNG manipulation. And I saw it like... I would be in the Discord in passing, because I didn't want to absorb too much intel to spoil a challenge for myself later. But I did see things here and there, like things like RNG manipulation. And so once I finally got frustrated and realized I'm spending way too much time on Battle Network 1 and I want to move on to 2 already, I looked up RNG manipulation, and kind of as a compromise versus looking something else up, I actually created my own RNG manipulation routing to get the boss I wanted, and then figured out how to set up my chips to try and get the S rank for that. I think at some point with Battle Network 1, I may have even restricted myself on Navi chips or something like that. For the remaining chips, I took it upon myself to not just spam a bunch of Sharkman and Stoneman chips to get what it is I was looking for to get those S ranks. So once I moved on to Battle Network 2, what I did was, because I was familiar with Battle Network 2 enough from having played it so many times as a kid, I decided to hunt all the version 3 Navis as soon as they were available, and despite not having the HP or the high level chips for it, try and S rank them. And this was so difficult and such a time consuming endeavor, but I just had a lot of fun making that work. I think Airman V3 took me 6 hours, mostly because I also, for whatever reason, chose not to buy HP memories, so I couldn't even optimize Sneak Run. I just kept running around looking for Airman 3, hoping that my chips worked out correctly, hoping that I could add in enough turns to get enough chips for life swords to go off and kill them. I called this the Rebyc challenge because I locked myself from progressing in the story until this challenge was completed, and it was going good. I did it in Battle Network 2. I think I almost did in Battle Network 3, and then at some point I did have to call it quits. I can't remember who it was. It may have been Desert Man in Battle Network 3, but we'll get that when we get there to the individual Battle Network videos. Once I hit Battle Network 3, I also found, I think this is probably post-game, so after the Rebyc challenge kind of ended, I found myself recording these really fun thematic videos. It started with Japan Man, or Yamato Man. That one is on my channel. I had this realization that he's always encroaching you and taking your area over, so I thought it'd be really fun to kill him with Grab Revenge, especially if you can do it as optimally as possible to get a version 4 chip and all that. So that was kind of the start of that. And then as I played more and more, I realized, I mentioned it earlier, the fact that the versatility in Battle Network, how you can literally choose whatever strategy you want, and as long as you have enough damage output, you can make it work. It doesn't have to be that you always have the same monocode going. You can build up one super strong chip and double the damage with the elements or synchro, or you can do tiny multiple chips and add a bunch of TAC-10s to increase the damage output over time. Things like that, just it adds up so quick, and there's so many different ways to do it. The fact that I'm able to, across 6 different battle networks, come up with a unique strategy for each boss and still get amazing record times on them, even if some of them are like close. Like I barely made, I think, my Gridman Omega video. Shit, that took me 40 hours, by the way, to do. But like in Battle Network 6, I have a bunch of sub 5 videos where I'm not using any Navi chips. I'm just using, whatever I think is in the standard list, basically. That to me, in my replay phase, has been so incredibly fun to be able to theorize a theorize a battle, choreograph it, record it, upload it, and then hopefully share it with people. That's been a lot of fun to me. I took a month-long hiatus because it had been several hundred hours now of just Volume 1 Battle Network games. I went back to Battle Network 4. I definitely had thoughts on that playthrough. I played through it. That one I actually managed to 100% without looking at anything online, which is crazy how simple that was. I guess I got lucky in some parts with LM Dark or the Wide Shot 2 chips that are hidden in the comps and stuff like that. Eventually I took another week maybe before I did Battle Network 5. Battle Network 5 was okay. I realized that my nostalgia for 5 was a lot stronger as a kid than my adult playthrough. Maybe if I had played Double Team DS, it would have been a bit different because the quality of life stuff there is different. I had a really annoying time trying to blindly complete my standard library, for example, because of the RNG methods behind the green mystery data. But anyways, again, digressing. Save that for another video. And then Battle Network 6, I finally got to replay and remember it as I played through it now. Remember how when I was a kid, I kind of just played through the Japanese version and retained nothing. This time I definitely did retain stuff, and my childhood evaluation of that game being way too easy completely held through. Still way too easy, even with the challenge modes I induced upon myself, like with the red block challenges, with not getting HP memories, not looking stuff up online. All that still lets a really easy enough playthrough. Like, it was doable, but I'm masochistic enough that I probably would enjoy things like that most people wouldn't. In any case, those were my replay throughs of 1 through 6, my quick thoughts on them. Outside of the PvE stuff, I finally graduated into the PvP stuff. That was a ton of fun. I joined my Discord server's Battle Network 3 tournaments, and I was able to, I think I took home, first place a couple of times, sometimes unofficially, sometimes officially, depends on the TO you asked. I got a lot of fun videos off on PvP, like trying to kill someone with, oh yeah, Salamander. How could I forget? That was my thing in Battle Network 3, was killing people with Salamander. So yeah, that was a fun time. Anyways, yeah, I did that in PvP as well, just for the memes. And eventually, once we got to Battle Network 6, I tried my hand at more competitive playthrough, both in a competitive sense and not competitive sense. For example, trying to win tournaments with Big Hook, arguably the worst Battle Network Gigachip in the game. But yeah, through that effort of now going in the PvP scene, I befriended a lot of people, both online and in person, to the point where Imaska hosts some New York City events where I show up in person and I help him co-host and promote the event. And we are still running that event to this day. It's been 2 years now since we've been running it. This Saturday, when the Legacy Collection for Star Force drops, we'll actually be hosting a Star Force event for that. So if you're in the New York City tri-state area, take a look at the description and you'll know where to go for that. If you miss out, there'll always be VODs available, and if you can't be there in person, you can catch the stream. That's been a really cool experience for me, is to be able to catch up with people in person for the Battle Network experience. That's, my third final act of this micro video, quote unquote micro. It's probably over 30 minutes now, but Act 1, my discoverability phase. Act 2, my anticipation phase. And Act 3, here we have the mastery, the community, the creativity. Yeah, it's been a really fun ride. I can't believe it or not, in the past 2 years, since the Legacy Collection had dropped for Battle Network, I did not play any other single player game because nothing held me. Nothing held me as well as the Battle Network games did. So we're talking Tears of the Kingdom. I skipped Baldur's Gate 3. I skipped Horizon Forbidden West. All these top tier games that everyone was waiting for meant nothing to me because I had Battle Network. In that first 6 months of the game, I clocked in 1,200 hours between April 14th and October 14th. I will let you do the math on what 1,200 hours works out to be while still having a full-time job. Now, mind you, I was working remote, And by working remote, I mean I wasn't working at all. So I did have a privilege that a lot of people did not have, and I'm really grateful for that privilege because it really let me be true to my inner self and really pay homage to the to 11-year-old me in this playthrough, in this journey. And now that Star Force is coming out, I probably won't go through that again, especially since I have a wedding reception to plan this summer. But hopefully, putting this video out there as my love letter to the Mega Man Battle Network franchise will inspire me to do some more long form content and maybe finally finish uploading all the other videos in my backlog. It'd be nice if I had an editor, but it is what it is. I'm going to leave it there so I don't keep on rambling. And I hope you guys, enjoyed this little splurge session that I had. And if you're interested in seeing more, by all means, leave me a comment on if it's something specific you want to see, like a challenge video. I'm always down for that. That's something I've done in my free time after completing the Legacy Collection through my friends on Discord. And with that, yeah, that'll be it. Later.